Alright, so I just finished, well, I'm getting ready to go to a race, so I figured I'd put a quick little video together of the new bike and, well, the new controller from Emoto Bros. I had some issues with it, but they worked with me for a few weeks until we sorted out what the issue was, and it's basically just a setting, because basically you can twist the throttle, it wouldn't go anywhere for a couple, like 1 or 2 seconds, and then it would just all of a sudden all take off. But like I said, we got that sorted, so we're good to go now. And anyway, so got the controller working, and I've got my parallel pack to give me a little more power. So I'm just going to work through the different settings, and I actually was running it through all the testing at 6 kilowatts. They recommend not going over 4800, which is the stock rating, for about 80 amps, but I was having no problems with non-bypass battery without the range extender parallel pack, and I was pulling 100 amps. But once again, it's just like what you're about to see right now, just a few pulls up and down the street. Never any extended long range pulls where the pack will get hot and all that good stuff. So like I said, I'm just going to work through the different settings, kind of show y'all what it's like. So I have it where eco mode at power level 9 is pretty much exactly the same as stock, enough to really be able to pick it up easy, but not so fast that it's gonna yank your arms off and a beginner can ride it. Like I said, it's pretty much exactly the same as stock right now. 250 amps, phase amps. Can't really get it up real easy above like 10 or 15 miles an hour. 15 right here. Can't really get it up. So I'll go ahead and go back to sport. So basically every setting, I have 9 different modes, and every mode is another 1000 kilowatts. So with a max of 9, which is 150 amps. So it's actually the same amount of power as the XX. But I have a feeling it's actually even more. But that's, I need to do a side-by-side comparison with a buddy down in Baton Rouge. But anyway, so I'm just going to work through each one and show y'all kind of how much of a difference it makes. So here we go. This is power level 5, so it's essentially the same amount of power as stock, but it has more amps. So actually, I can lift the front end much easier. But go up one more. And this is essentially the level I was able to run it at with the stock non-bypass battery, which puts it right at 100 amps. And it's actually really impressive, and honestly, most of the time I ride it's probably going to be right here. Maybe one level up if I have this extender, but this is plenty of power here. And then like, it's just insane. And I still have 3 more levels to go. So 7 is where it actually gets a little bit uncomfortable riding, because it's just really, really jumpy. And it's a rocket. The front is still lifted, that front wheel. Go ahead and go up another notch, level 9, or level 8 kilowatts. And just. Oh, and by the way, I do actually have a heavier rear tire, so if you have the stock wheel size, you'll actually have even more acceleration than what I'm showing right now. I can't even keep the front end down, keep standing up and keep my weight forward. Let's see, let's do a quick pull, see how fast it goes. Yeah, and that was 50 miles an hour. Way faster than even the stock setup. Like top speed wise, I've already exceeded what it could do. Alright, so last mode, This is essentially the Ludicrous XX mode right here. This is what they're claiming they put out, which, like I said, that we'll have to see whenever we do a, me and my buddy, we need to meet up and do a comparison, but I'd be really surprised if they were selling a bike this fast. Here it goes. I mean, look, I can't even get off the line without it trying to wheelie. And then I'll show y'all, I'll get up to about 30 miles an hour and show you that this thing is just, this is 25. Literally just little running no problem. No matter how crazy you are. So, but like I said, I'm going to a race this weekend, so it'll be interesting to see how it stacks up against gas bikes. Because I'm going to be running in a pit bike class that's unlimited engine mods. So, right up to one of my friends there, he's running, I think, almost 200cc on his KLX 140. So, anyway, that's about it, I guess. I mean, I haven't had really any ride time on it yet, but other than what you just saw, like, that's essentially all I've done is just kind of play around and ride around the neighborhood. But it's absolutely changes the entire bike going to that controller, so definitely well worth the money. We'll see how it holds up though. So alright, so y'all saw the first video of me riding around Surron around the house with the upgraded controller. So that was getting ready for a race I was this weekend in Oklahoma. So we're about to get into those clips. It did it really well in practice, but there was some issues that came up, and we'll talk about that later. But let's just go ahead and fade into those videos of the race. did practice, it did well. But unfortunately on the second practice, it actually just died on me right before, about halfway through practice. Wasn't really sure what was going on. I knew it was a throttle issue because you give it throttle and nothing would happen. And I actually pulled up an app and checked the voltages. It wasn't getting a voltage change whenever I twist the throttle. And it would actually kind of work if you if while it was powered up, you disconnect the plug and put in this old throttle, because I actually had a aftermarket throttle. But it was continuously running because the voltages aren't quite the same between the two. But if you tried turning it off and turning it back on with the stock throttle, it would fault out. So didn't know what was going on, so long story short, ended up deciding that morning to just go ahead and put the stock controller and throttle back on just so I'd have something to race. So I only ran in one class, and it was actually, I ran in one of the slowest classes, because it wasn't really going to be able to keep up with the full mod bikes. And it did okay, but it definitely kind of bums me out. I wish we could have raced with the full mod guys. But anyway, Monday, whenever we came home, I went to go pulled the voltmeter and check what was going on with the aftermarket throttle. And that's when I found the issue, is that there was actually these pinched wires. There's actually two clipped wires. So, and it looks like it's right around where the headset was. So I think it was either like the rubber bumper on the forks or something that caught it and pinched it and tore it. So I'm actually in the process right now of going through the bike and putting the controller back in. So it's kind of in the middle of some drawing. And anyway, and then I'll also be going and repairing this burnt connection. So, and hopefully after that I'll be functioning again and I can start riding again like that. And I'll also, later in the video, you may have already seen part of it, there's some stuff I'm working on also, but once again, I'll talk about that at the end of the video. So now we'll go into the races on the Surron, and then after that we'll hop into the races on the pit bike just to get see a little more how the races went, because I did ride the pit bike more since I was having issues with the Surron. So here you go. So like I said, here's an update on the latest thing I've been working on the Surron. I have been posting about it on the Facebook groups, but for those of you that don't follow that, I have been working on upgrading the front suspension. Most people just upgrade to some heavy mountain bike forks, Fox 40s, Bomber 58s, whatever. Those are nice because they're nice and bolt-in, but for what I do, I am building a hard enduro setup and I ride pit bike tracks, so I'm actually doing a lot of jumping, and I've had issues with bending and breaking things before, so I want to go a little bit heavier duty, and so that's what led me to this and my experience. In pit bike background, we have the standard fork that's always used on the KLX 110s, which coincidentally from the axle to the top is almost identical of the stock Surron setup, so I won't be losing any front end height, but I'll be gaining a lot more rigid setup. So basically I'm going to a KTM 65 front end, and just show you where I'm at. Basically I'm just making some adapters that adapt the steering stem to the Surron stock bearings. I'm having a few little issues, but I'm about 80-90% done with the conversion, just waiting on a few parts to come in. But so here they are. They're actually on the bike. I've had some prototype ones made, some prototype spacers made, and basically it bolts up fine. I had to put some spacers here. That's one more spacer I'm gonna have to make for my kit, because I have thought, if I've had enough interest that I might actually start making a kit to do this. Nice thing about these forks is they're only about $600. You can usually pick them up between $500 to $800. Whereas, you know, Fox 40, if you're buying it new, is like $1,300. Used, or used you can get them for maybe $1,200 or so, depending on how old you go. But anyway, these have a lot of potential because they are, like I said, they are the same forks that we use on our pit bikes. For example, this is my 50 that I was racing in those videos. It has the shorter versions of those same forks. They actually use the same seals and everything. They're just, these are 6-inch travel. Those are about 8.5-inch travel. Where the KLX 110s are using the same forks. The drawback to these older ones is that they don't have any adjustments. If you go with the newer KTM 65 forks, they do actually have compression rebound adjustments. And then apparently I just found this out recently that the newest, I think 2017 and newer, actually have air forks. So you actually don't have to change out springs, and they save another pound or so. And that leads me to the other point of this, or I guess a drawback to, for some people on these, is that they do weigh significantly more. I weighed this versus stock, and that's including the handlebars, clamps, brake, all that. It's about an 8-pound increase going to these forks. But like I said, the type of riding I do, I beat on the bike pretty hard, doing enduro, hardcore trail riding type stuff, where I'm constantly smashing into logs and hopping over stuff, and then just like in these races, doing lots of jumps. Because in the races, I've always been trying to keep my front end light over everything, so I just don't beat the crap out of it and have it fall apart. So the only other issue I'm having right now is that these forks aren't quite flush here. I can slide them up, but my concern is that the distance from here to here is right around 9 inches. These have a little bit over 8.5 inches of travel, and I still don't have a front fender on here yet, so I don't want the tire to hit the fender. I think you could get away with actually having them flush. It would be right there borderline. You'd have a few mils, and I'll probably try that, but I actually do want the front end to sit a little bit higher, just to give me a little bit extra ground clearance. I mean, we're talking about millimeters here, but still, it's just a little bit extra. And the last step that I'm waiting on parts for right now is that whenever you put the caliper on, let me come over here and show you the difference. So this is the KTM caliper versus the stock. So Big difference in these two. Way more pad, way more grip. And they actually use this pretty much the exact same size rotors. They're within about 5 millimeters in diameter. So I haven't had noticed any issue with clamping area, clamping location on the rotor whenever I had it set up. But the rotor is so big, I mean the caliper is so big that it's actually hitting the spokes here. So I've ordered some boost adapters to space out the rotor, and then I'll use the spacers that come with that kit to center the wheel into forks, because right now it's actually kind of centered, but it likes to sit a good bit off. So once I have that done, I should have a video up of it running and riding around pretty soon. And you do have to upgrade your springs, because this has stock springs in it, and I'm actually a real light rider, about 125, 130 pounds, geared up, and just pushing on the front end, I can almost bottom it. Well, actually, I can bottom it. So I've ordered some stiffer springs, which once again, because these are kind of the standard for pit bikes, they are easy to get. Pretty much any spring rate you want. And that's about it. I'll be installing this controller today and waiting on the rest of the parts for these forks. So until next time, I guess next I'll have the video of it with the new forks working. So with the upgraded controller, hopefully this wire repair fixes that issue. So that's it. See ya.